Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Notion Basics webinar. I am really excited to be here with you today. So today we're going to talk through pretty much everything you need to know to start using Notion to its full potential. Before we start, again, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of what I'm sure is a busy day to learn a little bit more about this tool. I would really love to have an active chat in this session. So if you want to go ahead and find that chat on the right-hand side, tell me where you're joining from and what you're hoping to get out of this session. We have a small enough group that I can probably tailor some of what we go through today to your specific needs. So we'll see what I can do there. While you do that, I will quickly introduce myself. So my name is Zoe Ludwig. I run all of the user education programming here at Notion. I've been using Notion for about 2 years, both on Teams and as a personal user. Generally, just a huge fan of the tool. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn off that chat noise. My bad. I still discover new features of Notion every day, and I'm really excited to share some of the stuff that I've learned along the way here. Awesome to see that chat filling up. Want to know more about Notion and potential for daily use? Great, you'll definitely get that today. Looks like we have a really global audience. That's really exciting. Track progress on 3 side hustles. That's awesome. Congrats on having that much. Awesome. Cool. So a little bit about what we're going to go through today. My plan is to take you from basics like text editing to some of the fun and advanced stuff like database workflows. The goal generally is to just give you the confidence you need to navigate and to build in Notion if you've been like experimenting, but you're not sure where to go next. So to achieve this, we will take a workspace tour, deep dive into page creation and editing, dip our toes into databases, and between each section, I'll pause for Q&A, and we'll have a longer Q&A section at the end. For questions, I would love if you could add questions in this questions tab on the right-hand side. You can also upvote questions there. So if someone asks a question that you're also curious about, just upvote it, and I will answer those in order of upvotes. Also, for the best experience, I would make sure you are signed up for Notion and actually just go ahead and open it in another window or tab. It'll be great if you can walk along the tutorial that I do today with me, and that's just going to make the learning a little bit stickier. So cool. That is all for my introduction. So let's go ahead and dive in here with a workspace tour. So we are getting started in this default team workspace. If you're the first person on your team using Notion or you're using it as a personal user, your space might look exactly like this. If you're joining a team, it might have other pages on the sidebar. We're going to spend a lot of time today on this mostly blank wiki page, building it out. So regardless, you should be able to follow along. The first step on our Notion tour here is going to be the top left corner of the sidebar. So my Notion account has multiple workspaces that I can access just by clicking on this logo on the top left. So maybe you have one workspace for your personal stuff, like Zoe's second brain, and another workspace that you use for work. So I obviously have a lot of these here, but you probably only have 1 or 2. We generally recommend keeping workspaces super broad. So in most cases, your whole company will operate on the same workspace. This just makes it easier to collaborate and to share content cross-functionally. If you do have a personal workspace or you work with a lot of companies, like in the case of freelancing where you're joining their workspace, this is where you would switch between all of those. In this menu, you can also see what plan level you're on for each workspace. So for example, I'm currently on a team trial for both of these Acme spaces, and I'm on a personal plan for my second brain account. There's also enterprise and team plans, which you can learn more about on our pricing page that's on the Help Center. This top area is also where you will find settings to change things like your display name and your workspace images. So that's just going to be here under settings and members. We're not going to dive too deep into the specifics of what each of these things do. I just wanted to let you know that this is here and call out a couple things about this. So these things on top are things that will affect your entire account. So all of the workspaces you're in, that's like your name, your avatar, your language, etc. These settings down here will just affect this workspace. So if I were to change something here, it would only affect my Acme workspace that I'm currently in. You can also see all the members of your workspace by going to the members tab, and it will show you who's a member, who's an admin, etc. We generally recommend only having a small handful of admins for any given workspace because admins are able to change billing information, add more members, change security settings, all of that. They are relatively powerful. So getting close to the end of the tour, this is also where you can add your coworkers to your workspace. Going to try to highlight collaboration quite a bit today because really is one of the best things about Notion. So if you are following along with me and you've been wanting to bring someone into your space, you can go ahead and do that now just using this add members button. Finally, going to return to this blank business wiki page to talk about the idea of pages and the sidebar. So everything in Notion is going to live on a page. That is what this blank space here is. This is our canvas for adding images, adding text, adding everything else. We can even add other pages to this page, which we will do today. And pages are organized into the sidebar into 4 sections. So you'll have a public or workspace section, a shared section, a private section, and a favorites section. So again, depending on the maturity of your workspace, you may see one or all of these sections. Like I don't have a shared section here since no one has shared a private doc with me in this Acme space. But if I were to share one with someone or they were to share one with me, that section would show up. And another best practice, generally, we encourage people to keep their sidebar pretty minimal. So as you can see, there's something like 7 pages in my sidebar, but these don't represent every single page in my workspace, right? Other pages are nested inside of these, and we call them subpages. So if I were to open the engineering wiki, for example, I would see a whole list of subpages. And if I were to click on it, I can see that they live on that top level page. We're going to get pretty familiar with this during our demo today. So this is just a great way to know how to navigate. If there's a page that you want to access easily all the time, like a project plan that you're actively working on or something like that, you can favorite that page using this favorite button on the top right-hand corner. Once you click that, it will show up in this favorite section of your sidebar. So if you're following along with me, go ahead and try that, favorite a page, and then just quickly unfavorite it, and you can watch it appear and disappear on your sidebar there. Great, so that concludes the workspace tour that we were going to go through. So I'll go ahead and pause for questions here if anyone has them. If you haven't, go ahead and start upvoting questions on that tab. Great, so first question, we want to use Notion for a new fintech startup as an internal wiki, issue tracker, team, project, and task management tool. Amazing. That is definitely what we want you to use it for as well. And I give the difference between using Notion and Asana. So I don't want to dive too deep into comparing like all the products here because I think I could do that for a really long time. But generally speaking, Notion is going to be more flexible than a lot of other tools on the market. So allowing you to build your own workflows and your own spaces like a little more customized. How do you make a subpage, or sorry, how do you move a subpage from one page to another? Or how do you change a page into a subpage of another page? Yeah, so if I wanted to move a subpage, like let's say I wanted to move this company history page into Docs, I could just grab that page and drop it into the Docs area. Similarly, if I wanted to put like my docs into Acme OS, I could just grab it, drop it, and it would show up here. I'm just going to undo that because I want to keep it out here, but that's how you would move it around. Great. Is there a way to auto sort alphabetically the left-hand menu? So no, you can't auto sort alphabetically. You can, like I just showed, drag and drop these into the order that you want. This is another reason why we recommend keeping it kind of minimal because it'll just be a lot easier to manage when it's like that. And personally, I think it's easier to look at like a page with all of my subpages than it is to look at the sidebar. So I like keeping this pretty thin and then managing stuff in here. Great. Is there a way to make info, deadlines, dates, etc. from multiple pages feed into a personal to-do list? I jumped the gun on saying I'd answer this right now. That's a great question, and I do want to answer that. It's a little more complex than what we're doing right this second, but yes is the answer. You could create a database, and then you could create a filtered view of that database and put that into like a personal section of your sidebar. All right. So many great questions here. This is awesome. I'm going to answer 2 more and then move on to the next section. So, can we have many roadmap pages? Mainly, can we make the roadmap page a sub-page of a parent page? Yes. So right now we have this one roadmap. This is a default page in a team workspace. So it's got different tasks on it, and you could use this to manage like project work. If you wanted to have more than one of these, you absolutely could. You could just duplicate this. You could build your own. However, we would recommend keeping everything as much as you can on one database and then just creating views. So we're going to get much more into that a little bit later. But just the best practice would say like keep it broad if you can. All right. And then last question I'm going to answer right now. I already have a personal Notion space. What's the best / easiest way to start a new space for my startup? Yeah, so if you want to start a new space, you'll come over here and you'll click add another account, I think. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. And you can add a workspace that way. And then just start to build it out. If you want to bring stuff over from your personal page, there's a way to do that as well. I can link to the Help Center article that talks about that next time I take a break. Awesome. So thank you for all your good questions. Go ahead and keep asking questions as I do this next section, and then just upvote if there's a question that you really want to hear the answer to as well. I gotta find where I'm at in my script here. Give me 1 second. All righty. Okay, great. So let's dive back into blocks. So I already mentioned this, but I really do believe that learning is the stickiest when you get to be an active participant in it. So today we're going to start with this blank page and we're going to build it out into a full-blown business wiki. So while I do this, I'll highlight the why behind certain design elements and decisions and try to explain how I might like extend or expand this project if we had more time. But to get the most out of it, what I would do is split screen me and your Notion app so that you can add things as we go. So to start, let's simply define what a wiki is. We like to say that a wiki is your team's long-term memory. So it's where you store policies, goals, employee contact info, engineering practices, anything that would be important for a new employee to know in one central location. So on our business wiki, we might include things like a brand and style guide, a launch calendar, media PR resources, growth and lifecycle marketing, and a lot more. So I'm going to start here by simply adding these as bullet points. And you'll notice that when I click on this, I can just start typing. Normal commands are going to work here. So let's add a bullet point for brand and style guide, launch calendar, media PR resources, growth and lifecycle marketing. On this wiki, we could also include mission and value statements. So I'll go ahead and make these up, and feel free to chime in ideas in the chat if you want to add some values. I think it's kind of fun. So just like last time, I will start typing and we'll worry about formatting later. So perhaps Acme has the exact same mission as Notion. So we'll just type, if every person and business can tailor software to their problems, the world will be better at solving its problems. And our mission is to make that a ubiquitous reality. Oh, almost spelled it right. I've done this webinar a few times. I spell it right like about 80% of the time. So one thing that you can do here too is if you want to make something bold, normal shortcuts are going to work here. So if I want to just Command B or Control B on Windows and type values, that will work just like it would in any other word processor. So let's go ahead and add those value statements. Again, we could just number these and it would work like a normal text editor. So I'll start with put users first, quality with speed, feedback is a gift, and run the front page test. Again, these are just some Notion values that we're throwing in here. Alternatively, I could turn these into toggles if I wanted to just use the little caret. And this is a cool feature because it will hide the details about the values inside. So let's say I wanted to add a value like customer obsessed. We already put users first, but whatever. We could put information in here. We love our customers. And then I could just hide that. So toggles are one of my favorite features in Notion. They're kind of fun. All right. At this point, you might be thinking like, what is happening? Slow down. So I'm going to do that. If you're still working on adding things, go ahead and keep adding them. But I'm going to switch over to some slides to talk a little bit about Notion history and how we got here. So everything that we just added to this page is a block. So you can see that because when I mouse over individual elements, we get this little 6-dot icon. This is a block. This is a block. If you're familiar with HTML at all from like Neopets for me, maybe MySpace or web dev class that you've taken, a block is more or less analogous to an element. We have tons of block types in Notion. We actually have more than 500. These include the text that we just added, bullet points, toggles, all of that. So let's just go ahead and zoom out. This is a good spot to just like pause, think, and listen about what we're building. So looking at most software, you notice patterns in the sorts of features that they offer. Write and edit text, add comments, organize that text as contacts or documents or data, rinse and repeat for pretty much every tool on the market. And Notion originated with this idea of patterns. Why not give people these common elements of software directly, allowing them to build their own perfect tools? In a way, we like to think of it like Lego blocks. With just a couple of block sizes and colors, people create really cool, like really big Lego sculptures. Why can't the same thing be true of software? So to solve this, we have our own concept of blocks. They are the basic unit of construction in Notion. Everything that you add to a page is a block. So text is contained in a block. And everything that we just added is contained in a block. So we didn't invent this idea or even borrow it from Lego. In the 70s and 80s, computing pioneers like Engelbart, Goldberg, Kay, and Nelson imagined a future where ordinary people could create their own software, just like many people today can read and write. And for a lot of reasons, this didn't happen, but we definitely believe that there's no reason it can't be true in the future. So let's take a look at a constructed Notion page. There are 12 different blocks on this page and 7 different block types. Each piece of text without a line break is a block, including each of these toggles, to-do lists, etc. And this should look pretty familiar from what we already typed, this top little corner here. There's also an image here, a video embed, and if we scroll down, we would see a gallery. These are some of the many fun block types that are available in Notion. I'm seeing some more questions come into the chat, which is great. So I'm going to move back to our Notion app to talk about some of these new and fun block types before I get into answering all of those. So to explore block types, you can use what we call the slash command, which is just on a new line, typing the slash, // or you can hit plus at the beginning of a new row. And so I mentioned there are over 500 block types in Notion. You can read all about those in the Help Center. But for the purposes of this section, we want you to understand that there are 6 basic block types. So the first one is basic blocks, which includes the text that we just added, normal headings, to-do lists, bullet lists, toggles, all of that. The next is inline. And if you're familiar with HTML at all, this is the same vocabulary that is used there. So this is things that live inside of another block. Like if you want to mention a person, like you do on Twitter or Instagram, mention a page, add a date, these will live inside of a block. Next is database blocks. So we're going to spend more time getting to know these a little bit later, but just for now, know that you can use database blocks to manage data. They look like tables, boards, lists, calendars, etc. Next is media blocks. This is exactly as you would expect, images, web bookmarks, videos, there's even audio, code, etc. Fifth is our embed block. So this is the majority of the 500 block types in Notion. This is anything that gets pulled in from another website like Map, Tweet, GitHub, Figma Design. This will just take something from that website and then display it like in full form on your page. Finally, we have our advanced block types. We're not going to spend much time getting to know these today, but these are some kind of cool and Notion specific features like table of contents, synced blocks, and math equations, and more. So what I want to show us is that any block type can be converted to another block type by clicking on this 6-dot menu on the left-hand side and then selecting Turn Into. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my mission and values statements into headings. So I'll click 6-dot menu, turn into heading 1, and I'll do the same thing for values, turn into heading 1. We can even turn these bullet points into pages with that 6-dot menu. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of them, click that 6-dot menu, turn into, and then select page. This is one of the coolest things about Notion in my example, because we just took like a really static document and turned it into something dynamic where I can now click on this and I could add my brand and style information here, come back to my business wiki, and it's kind of starting to function like a full-blown website. So if we wanted to add more style and emphasis to this page, we could use the slash command, and let's just go ahead and try adding an image. So slash img, or sorry, im, we keep image. And then we can either upload, embed, or add one from Unsplash. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to go to Unsplash and look for an image of a person at a computer. And then we'll add them to our Notion page. So this is starting to look really cool. However, this image feels a little big to me. So I want to show us one more thing, which is that we can use this 6-dot menu to drag our blocks around. So if I grab this, I can create a column by simply dragging it to the right-hand side of the block that I want it to live on. I can put these back up under my values statement. And it's starting to look a little more like a full page. I can also add icons for these guys by just clicking on this button, maybe adding a calendar, maybe adding speaking head, and then icons there, right? So it's starting to look much more like the constructed Notion pages that you're probably used to seeing. I encourage you to think really big about how blocks can be combined to create new pages and display new information, right? Just like Lego blocks, this is a place that you get to play around and explore and create something that works really well for you. So great. Okay, doing okay on time. So I'm going to head back to our question section here. Go ahead and order by upvotes and let's see where we're at. All right. Thank you, Nate, for jumping in and answering some of these. Is there, okay, my friends and I use Notion for university and our life in general, implement Spanish in the application. That's a good question that I unfortunately don't know the answer to. Maybe Nate can answer it. If not, I'll get you some resources at the end of the session. All right. How do you manage editing permissions on pages and subpages? That's a great question. So I see that Nate already started to answer it, but I'm going to answer it live as well. So if you want to like lock a page, you would come up to this menu on the top right-hand side, lock it. That would mean that no one could edit it. If you wanted to make it like a private page, you could put it in that private section of your workspace and then only you can see it or edit it. And if you wanted to share it, you could just use this share button to share with someone in your workspace. So I could share this with Alex, for example, and it would pop up here. And then only the people that it's shared with can edit it. Right. Cool. I think that I got most of the unanswered questions there. I'll just quickly answer these by date to make sure that I'm not missing any. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, go ahead and keep dropping those in there if you have more. The last thing I want to demo today, which seems to be interesting to a lot of folks here, which I'm excited about, is databases. So this is my personal favorite feature in Notion because it's super simple, wildly powerful, and just like aesthetically pleasing all at the same time. So what we're going to do is add a table in the same way that we added our other block types by using this / command and then looking for a table. You'll notice that I have some options here. I can add a table inline or a table full page. And again, going back to those definitions, inline means it's just going to be like here on this page, whereas table would create something that I had to jump to another place to view. So we'll create this table. And you might notice that databases in Notion look pretty familiar, kind of like a spreadsheet, but they have a lot more depth than that. For example, if I click on this blank row and click open, it will open up to its own page that I can edit, just like we've been editing the BizWiki and like you can edit any page in Notion. That makes it super useful for a lot of use cases, including the one that we're going to build right now, which is a meeting notes table. So this is something I recommend for teams or companies that want to just like foster transparency in their organizations. The general idea here is that each row will be a meeting, and then each column will categorize that meeting by different properties. So let's go ahead and just start by giving our table a name. We'll call it meeting notes. And then let's add some generic meetings to this table. So we've got like a weekly sync, maybe an all hands, and then like a design retrospective, just general meetings. We could use the tags property here to add like the team that is meeting. For example, this is just going to be a group that categorizes your meeting. So maybe weekly sync was marketing, all hands is all, and design retrospective is probably design. You can add as many options here as you want. And then if you don't want to include it in that row, you can just click that X button, but it will stay there. So if I wanted to add like engineering weekly, I can come and select it here. So again, unlike the table that you might be used to, this is a database, which means each column requires a type. So this first column, the type is text. This next column, the type is a tag. And you can add pretty much any other kind of property that you can think of by clicking this plus sign. So let's say we want to add a meeting date. We will click the plus sign. Oops, I'm going to delete that. Click the plus sign, property type, and then add a date. We can click it again to rename it to meeting date. You can add another property for meeting attendees, and this could be people. Call it meeting attendees. And then what you'll see when we start to fill these in is that it expects information of that type. So meeting date, if I click on this, is going to pull up a calendar, and then I can select the date, or I could type it in here, right? But I'll just give these random dates because that's fine. And then meeting attendees is going to expect people. So maybe, you know, Alex, Nathan, Edward, we're at the weekly sync, all hands. I'm going to just click on everyone. Design retrospective was maybe, you know, these two. And so it knows what kind of information to expect because you gave it that type when you added property. So this is cool. But remember that depth that I mentioned, right? This is already looking like wonderful and way better than a spreadsheet, in my opinion. But this is a real database under the hood, which means that the data is stored in a configurable format. So we can create views with it. If I come up here and click add a view, I'm hit with a list of options of how I can display this data. So right now it's in like table, which I kind of think of as like the default state. So this is where you can like view all of the data that you have. But there's also all these other kinds of views. So a board is great for project planning, looks kind of similar to like Jira. Timeline, you're going to be able to see things in a timeline view. So project planning, scheduling, like maybe planning out an event day would be great in the timeline view. Calendar, which is what we're going to create here, is going to let you see these pages or these rows on a calendar. List is going to be like a simplified view. If you just want to know all the meetings that happened and what team met, you could just click a list and you could get that really streamlined view. And then gallery is going to let you see like more information about what's on the page. So we use this for like images or additional text that you might want to add and view in this. So again, let's create a calendar view just to see how this works. Select calendar, hit create. And then I can see all of those meetings that I added show up on the calendar. And again, if I click on this, I would be able to see those meeting notes, assuming there were some there. You can also add properties to this view by clicking on this three-dot menu, properties, and then maybe I want to show the meeting attendees, they'll show up there, or the group, that will show up there as well. And then I can just toggle back and forth between views using this little drop-down menu. So as you can see, this gets really powerful really quickly. And this is why, going back to that question earlier, we recommend keeping as much in one database as you can, as makes sense for your company, because you can do all of these different views. You can start to like sort and filter them. And then you're not trying to like connect information from different places. It's just all right there, and you can sort and cut however you want. All right, taking a breath there. We did a lot today. We took a workspace tour. We learned about blocks. We added our first database. But the real beauty of Notion is that it can really be anything you want. So while this wiki is awesome, there's also project management, and there is so much more to create here. If you are looking for inspiration on what to do next, I would highly recommend checking out the template gallery, which is in the bottom left-hand side of your sidebar. Here, you can find templates for pretty much any use case, and then you can add them right to your workspace. So I just built a meeting notes table, but say I wanted to add this one, I could just click use this template, and it would come into the private section of my sidebar. If I wanted to put it in the public section, again, just drag and drop. It will be accessible to everyone. That's great. And then it kind of already has some of the properties that I might be interested in, right? So this is a great way to just like skip the step if you don't want to build it yourself, or if you're like, I just need more inspiration, I'm not sure how to build it, template gallery is here for you. I also want to emphasize that we are here to help. So I'm going to answer all the rest of the questions in a second, but we also have this question mark in the bottom right-hand side of your Notion window that will show you keyboard shortcuts, the help center that's been referenced several times today, and our live chat. So you can always find us here or on Twitter or wherever you are. So great. With that, I'm going to jump back into questions, and let's see. All right, ordering these by upvotes. Will changing the view affect others' view of the database? No, it won't. So I actually want to demo something with that I think is pretty cool. So there's this really neat feature in our databases where you can filter by person. So let's say I had a board view here, and I just wanted to view the meetings that I had been to. I could come here, click filter, add a filter, and then where meeting attendees contains me, this will just show my meetings. And right, this is maybe not the best view for it because it's showing everyone on this board, but it's just showing the only meeting that I went to. And this view will be me for whoever clicks on it. So if Alex were to click on it, he would see both of the meetings that he was attending at that on this table, which is pretty cool. Can Notion be used as a robust CRM? Yeah. So again, if you're like trying to figure out how to use it, I would recommend going to templates. I'm pretty sure we have a CRM template. Yes, we do. So you can click on this, click use this template, and then if you like how it's set up, you can just leave it there. But if you want to change, the properties on each contact here, you can easily do that by just, deleting or coming over here and adding whatever you want. So this is cool because you can really customize it. A lot of like off-the-shelf tools are going to require you to have certain properties or like set it up in a certain way, but this is really like up to you and how you want to configure it. All right. Can I talk about Notion's automation capabilities? Yes. So Notion's automation capabilities are very vast. If you are the kind of person that is like familiar with Zapier and no code type of tools, I would encourage you to look into using those to automate some of your workflows in Notion, so you can bring in things from another website, like a type form, right into Notion, using Zaps. There's also like a lot of little tricks that you can do for, if you want to remind yourself about something, you can, let me find here, like at a reminder, remind me tomorrow at 9 a.m. and then you'll get a notification to come back to this page. So that's probably not the best answer to your question. I could do several webinars on automating things in Notion, but I would definitely start by looking into like our API and Zaps if you're interested in that. Okay. Sorry, just scrolling through the questions here, folks. All right. Cool. Well, I think Nate is on it with the questions in the chat. So since we have 10 more minutes, I'm going to demo one more thing that's kind of fun, which is our synced blocks feature. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I don't care about it, and talk about a synced block. So Notion has this concept of synced blocks, which are cool. Basically, if you want one block that doesn't change across your workspace, you can copy that block, like this, and then you can paste it somewhere else, like my mission from my homepage. And then when sorry, hate when the demos don't work exactly how you want it to. So let's click copy link, come here, and then paste it again with just Command V. I can paste and sync this. So what this does is if I want to change my mission on my homepage, like if we want to say every company and person instead of every business and person, I could change it here, and that change would also be made on my business wiki. So this is really cool for lots of management properties. For example, mission is a great one. But if you have, anything that appears in lots of places, time off for your employees, mission, values, that kind of thing, you don't have to go and update it across all of your documents. You can just use this synced blocks feature, and it will duplicate everywhere. I've seen some really cool examples of this, like ads, lots of cool things that you can do there. So just kind of a fun little goodie since we have some extra time. So awesome. I'm going to check the questions tab one more time. Looks like we got all of these answered. Awesome. Great. With that, I will give you all about 5 minutes back. Thank you so much for joining this webinar today. It was great to have you here and really loved having such an engaged audience. And again, you can always find us on that question button on the bottom right-hand side. And with that, thank you and goodbye, everyone.